They said he killed one man for every year of his life. 21 years, 21 lives. To some, he was a monster. To others, he was a boy who laughed in the face of death. But to everyone, he became a legend. Billy the Kid. Before we ride into his story, hit that subscribe button. Here at Outlaws of the Wild West, legends never die. Every week, we bring you the untold tales of the frontier's most feared men. Now saddle up, because this is the story of the boy outlaw who defied death itself. They said legends are born in blood, but Henry McCarty was born in hunger. In 1859, in the choking slums of New York City, a thin, restless boy came into the world. His father disappeared before Henry could remember his face. Some said he died. Others whispered he simply walked away. That left Catherine, Henry's mother, to carry the weight of survival alone, raising two sons in a city where the alleys stank of smoke and poverty, and every street corner hid a hustler waiting to take what little you had. Catherine's lungs betrayed her. Tuberculosis gnawed at her chest, and the sound of her coughing filled their tenement room at night when she heard whispers that life might be better in the Westland. Son. Opportunity, she gambled everything. She packed up her boys, boarded wagons and trains, and chased the horizon across Indiana, across Kansas, until they finally reached New Mexico. To Henry, the frontier was a wild promise. The skies were bigger, the streets wider, and there was a freedom in the air. He was wiry, quick, clever with words. Teachers called him bright, even charming. But behind that grin was hunger, always hunger. By 1874, Catherine was gone. The sickness claimed her, leaving Henry an orphan at 14. The boy wandered Silver City alone. He scrubbed dishes for pennies, swept stables, slept in barns. The town around him was no place for a child. Saloons bled laughter and violence into the streets. Gamblers cursed over poker hands, and miners stumbled through dust with whiskey on their breath. Temptation grew claws. Hunger became theft. Theft became crime. His first arrest was almost pitiful. Stealing laundry from a line. Just a bundle of clothes. The sheriff, amused by the boy's politeness, thought jail might scare him straight. But Henry had other plans. One night, smoke filled his cell as he lit a fire in the chimney. The guard rushed to douse it. In that moment, Henry wriggled up the flue, scraped by soot and sparks, and disappeared into the night sky. That escape lit something inside him. A boy who could slip through chains, through fire, through the cracks of the law. A boy no cell could hold. From that night forward, Silver City never saw Henry McCarty again. And the world would soon learn another name. A name spoken with fear in saloons, whispered by lawmen around campfires, and printed on wanted posters that would stretch across the frontier. The boy had vanished into the darkness, but what came out was not Henry. It was Billy the Kid. Henry McCarty was gone. The world now whispered another name, Billy the Kid. By 1877, he was 17. Small, wiry, boyish. If you passed him in the street, you might mistake him for a farmhand or a schoolboy. But under the grin was something sharper, a hunger to survive, and a willingness to do what others could not. He drifted into Arizona, a land of dust and cattle, saloons and pistols. He took work when he could, often at ranches, trading labor for food and a place to sleep. But Billy's quick temper and quicker mouth earned him enemies, and one of them would change his life forever. Frank Windy Cahill was a blacksmith, older, larger, a bully with fists like hammers. He mocked Billy for his youth, for his size, for the way he carried himself. One hot afternoon, tempers boiled over. Witnesses swore Cahill shoved Billy into the dirt, laughing, calling him kid, as though the word itself was a weapon. Billy rose, eyes flashing. Dust clung to his shirt. Cahill lunged again, and in that split second, Billy's hand flashed to the revolver at his side. A single shot split the air. Cahill staggered, clutching his chest. Blood poured between his fingers. His laughter died in a choking gasp. He collapsed in the dirt, the life draining from his body. Silence fell over the ranch. Men stared at the boy who had just gunned down a grown man. Billy's chest heaved, revolver still smoking, his grin gone, replaced by something colder. He mounted a horse and fled into the desert. That ride marked the line he could never cross back. Henry McCarty was no more. Billy the Kid had drawn his first blood. From then on, the world was divided. Some said he was reckless, a murderer with a baby face. Others said Cahill had it coming, that the kid had only defended himself. But the law made no such distinctions. A warrant went out. Billy was now an outlaw, and every step he took would carry him deeper into crime. He drifted across the Southwest, gambling in saloons, stealing horses, rustling cattle. His charm made him welcome at fiestas. His smile disarmed strangers. But when the cards turned bad, or a threat was made, the revolver spoke. And it spoke fast. Witnesses swore Billy could draw and fire in the blink of an eye, his bullets finding their mark before an opponent had even cleared leather. Stories spread like wildfire. In dusty towns and lonely camps, men whispered of the kid who killed with the face of a child. Some claimed he laughed after gunfights, as if death were nothing but a game. Others said he danced with senoritas the same night he put men in the ground. Whether the tales were true or not, they gave him something more dangerous than a gun: a reputation. By the time Billy rode into New Mexico again, that reputation preceded him, and it led him straight into a conflict that would define his life. The Lincoln County War. In the heart of New Mexico, a storm was brewing. Two factions battled for control of trade and power: the old monopoly of Murphy and Dolan, and the young challenger, John Tunstall. Billy found work under Tunstall, tending horses, riding errands. For the first time, someone treated him with respect. Tunstall saw more than a runaway outlaw. He saw a sharp, loyal boy, and, for the first time, Billy had someone to believe in. But in the West, loyalty was written in blood. In February 1878, Dolan's hired guns ambushed John Tunstall. They shot him from his horse, leaving his body sprawled in the dust. Billy knelt beside his fallen mentor, eyes burning with rage. "I'll see them all in hell," he swore. With that oath, the boy outlaw crossed another line. He joined a band of young gunfighters who called themselves the Regulators. Together, they would ride into a war of ambushes, assassinations, and blazing six-shooters, and Billy's name would echo louder than ever before. The boy had killed. The boy had fled. And now, the boy would ride straight into a war that would make him a legend. When Billy swore revenge for John Tunstall, he tied his fate to a war bigger than himself. Lincoln County, New Mexico, was not just land. It was power. The Murphy-Dolan faction ruled like kings, controlling the only store, the only bank, and even the sheriff's badge. Ranchers and farmers bent under their grip. Then came John Tunstall, the Englishman who dared to break the monopoly. His murder lit the fuse. Billy and the Regulators were that fire. They rode with fury, pistols ready, eyes blazing with the fire of vengeance. For them, this was not politics. It was personal. And Billy, once just a drifting boy, was now the sharp edge of their blade. The first strike came in April 1878. Sheriff William Brady, ally of Dolan, walked the dusty street of Lincoln with deputies at his side. From behind an adobe wall, Billy and the regulators waited in silence, revolvers cocked. When Brady stepped into the open, the street erupted. Gunfire cracked. Bullets tore through his chest. He staggered, collapsed into the dirt, badge shining uselessly in the sunday. The law itself lay broken at Billy's feet. The killing shocked the territory. Newspapers spat fury. Outlaws assassinate the sheriff in broad daylight. But among the poor ranchers, whispers spread the kid had struck back for Tunstall. To some, he was a murderer. To others, he was justice on horseback. The war spiraled. Ambushes, raids, assassinations. Blood stained the desert soil. Billy's pistol spoke often, and always fast. Witnesses swore he laughed in the smoke of battle, calling out taunts as enemies fell. The boyish grin, the sudden gunfire, it was unforgettable, terrifying, magnetic. Then came the battle that burned his legend into the frontier forever. The Lincoln Standoff, July 1878. The regulators barricaded themselves inside a house in the heart of town. Dolan's men, dozens strong, surrounded them. For 5 days, the streets shook with gunfire. Bullets punched through adobe walls. Regulators fired back through shattered windows. Smoke filled the rooms, powder choking lungs, fear thick as dust. On the 5th day, Dolan's men set the house ablaze. Flames roared. Heat seared the air. Regulators coughed, eyes stinging, skin blistering. Death closed in from fire and bullet alike. Then, in the chaos, Billy did the impossible. He burst from the flames, revolvers blazing. Bullets whined past his head, but none struck true. He cut a path through gunmen, his laughter echoing as if even death were a joke. Witnesses swore it was supernatural, a boy wrapped in smoke and fire. Untouchable. When the smoke cleared, the house lay in ashes. The regulators shattered, but Billy had escaped. Again, that escape became the stuff of legend. Dime novels painted him as invincible. Newspapers called him the devil's child. Mothers warned their sons, "Obey the law, or Billy the Kid will come for you." By the end of the war, bodies littered the county. But justice was nowhere. The monopoly bent, broke, shifted hands, but Billy remained an outlaw. Hunted, wanted. His vow of vengeance had been fulfilled in blood. Yet his fate was sealed. There would be no going back. Billy the Kid had been forged in the Lincoln County War. He was no longer just a boy with a gun. He was the name on every sheriff's lips, the face on every wanted poster the outlaw America could not stop talking about. The regulators were broken. The war was over. But out of the fire, Billy the Kid rose unbroken. And the boy outlaw was now a legend. The smoke of the Lincoln County War cleared, but Billy the Kid did not vanish. He lingered in New Mexico like a ghost with a grin, drifting from town to town, never far from danger, never far from laughter. Wanted posters nailed to saloon doors screamed his name. Billy the Kid, dead or alive. A reward glittered beneath, enough to make bounty hunters salivate. Sheriffs chased him, possess formed, yet Billy always slipped away. He hid in mountains, vanished into canyons, then reappeared at fiestas, dancing with senoritas, guitar in hand. People couldn't believe it. How could the most wanted man in the territory waltz beneath lantern light as though the law were miles away? But that was Billy. Charm disarmed suspicion. His smile was a mask, and his revolver the truth behind it. Rumors thickened. Some swore he had killed one man for every year of his life, 21 lives, 21 notches. Whether fact or legend, the number stuck. Mothers warned children, behave, or Billy the Kid will come. Yet behind the laughter and bravado there was a shadow. Governor Lew Wallace, desperate to end the violence, offered amnesty to outlaws willing to testify. Billy seized the chance. He wrote to Wallace, promising evidence in exchange for a pardon. For once, perhaps, he thought there was a way out. He kept his end of the deal. He testified, but Wallace did not. The pardon never came. Billy had been betrayed again. Another promise broken. The kid grew harder, sharper. He trusted less, laughed more loudly, as though mocking a world that had cheated him. His escapes became legend. Arrested in Mesilla, shackled in irons, he winked at townsfolk as he was marched through the street. "Don't worry," he grinned. "I won't be here long." Days later, chains clattered empty, and the kid was gone again. The law seethed. Each time they caught him, he slipped free. Each time they cornered him, he rode away. Each escape magnified his legend, until people began to wonder, could he even be killed? But the walls of fate were closing in. In December 1880, Sheriff Pat Garrett, a man who had once shared drinks with Billy, took up the hunt. Unlike other lawmen, Garrett knew the kid's habits. He knew his friends, his hideouts, his weaknesses. He was not chasing a ghost. He was chasing a boy he once called a friend. That friendship turned to steel when Garrett cornered Billy near Stinking Springs. This time, there was no miraculous escape. Billy was captured, shackled, dragged before the courts. In April 1881, he stood trial for the murder of Sheriff William Brady. The courtroom buzzed, packed with citizens who craned their necks to see the outlaw boy. Billy listened calmly, eyes darting between jurors. When the verdict came guilty, he barely blinked. The sentence was death, hanging. The date was set, May 13th, in the very town where he had spilled Brady's blood. The boy outlaw, the legend untouchable, was now in chains, awaiting the rope. The law had him. The sentence was set. The hangman's rope waited. But Billy the Kid was not finished yet, and his next escape would shock the world. The sentence was death. Billy the Kid, at just 21 years old, was set to hang in the very town where he had spilled Sheriff Brady's blood. The law thought it had him at last. Shackled, guarded, locked within the courthouse of Lincoln, the boy outlaw seemed finished. But Billy was never finished. April 28th, 1881. The day began like any other. Guards led Billy upstairs to use the privy. Deputy James Bell escorted him down the staircase. Billy stumbled, almost tripping. Bell moved closer. In that instant, Billy struck. He seized Bell's revolver, spun, and fired point blank. The shot thundered through the courthouse. Bell staggered into the street, gasping his final words. "He's killed me," before collapsing in the dust. The town froze. Billy raced upstairs, heart pounding, revolver smoking. He found a shotgun left behind by Deputy Bob Ollinger, loaded with buckshot. Outside, Ollinger heard the commotion and sprinted across the street. Billy leaned out the window, grinning. "Hello, Bob." The shotgun roared. Ollinger's body was hurled lifeless to the ground. In minutes, 2 deputies were dead, and the boy outlaw was free again. Chains shattered, shackles gone. Billy mounted a stolen horse. As he galloped out of Lincoln, his laughter echoed against adobe walls. The impossible had happened again. The escape electrified the nation. Newspapers screamed, "Devil's child escapes rope." Some called it a miracle, others a curse. But to his admirers, it was proof that Billy the Kid could not be killed. Yet death was riding closer. For weeks, Billy hid near Fort Sumner, a small village he loved. He danced at fiestas, played guitar under starlight, courted senoritas, as if the law were 100 miles away. But Sheriff Pat Garrett was closing in. Garrett knew the kid better than any man alive. They had once shared whiskey, laughter, secrets. Now Garrett was the hunter, Billy the quarry. On the night of July 14th, 1881, Garrett learned that Billy was staying at Pete Maxwell's house near the Pecos River. Garrett and two deputies waited in the shadows, hearts steady, revolvers cocked. Inside, silence pressed heavy. Billy entered the dark room, knife in one hand, revolver in the other. The floor creaked under his boots. He whispered in Spanish, "Quién es?" Who's there? Garrett's pistol answered. A flash. A deafening crack. The bullet tore into Billy's chest. He gasped, staggered, and fell. Just like that, the boy outlaw was gone. He was 21 years old. Some swore Garrett killed the wrong man, that Billy still rode under another name. Imposters would surface for decades, claiming to be him. But history records the truth. Billy the Kid died that night at Fort Sumner. His body was dragged into the street. Townsfolk crowded, whispering. Some wept, some spat, some crossed themselves, murmuring. He was just a boy. The legend had ended in darkness, but in truth, it had only just begun. Dime novels sold by the thousands, painting him as a Robin Hood of the frontier. Songs immortalized his grin, his gun, his escapes. Tourists flocked to his grave in Fort Sumner, leaving flowers, candles, whispers. And Pat Garrett? He was never free of that night. Some hailed him a hero. Others damned him a traitor who killed his friend in the dark. Garrett would live haunted, his name forever chained to the boy outlaw. But Billy the Kid, he became more than a boy, more than an outlaw. He became a myth, because legends are not about how a man dies. They are about how he lives in memory. And Billy the Kid still rides in every story, every song, every whispered tale of the Wild West. Billy the Kid fell in the dark at Fort Sumner. At least, that's what Pat Garrett claimed. But legends do not end with a gunshot. Within days, newspapers across America exploded with his name. The New York Times described Garrett as a brave lawman who rid the West of a killer. Papers in Santa Fe praised the sheriff, hailing the triumph of law over chaos. But not everyone agreed. Smaller frontier gazettes wrote with bitterness, "They killed him like a dog in the night." In smoky saloons, ranchers muttered that Garrett had betrayed a boy who once called him friend. The conflicting stories sold papers faster than they could be printed. Dime novelists smelled profit. They turned Billy into something larger than life, a Robin Hood figure who fought greedy land barons and corrupt sheriffs. His pistol became lightning, his grin unbreakable. Children in Kansas whispered his name as if it were a spell. In Texas, songs about the kid spread from campfire to campfire. Verses about his 21 kills, his impossible escapes, his laughter in the smoke of gunfights. And yet, even as the ink dried on obituaries, doubts spread. Did Pat Garrett really kill Billy? Whispers claimed the sheriff had shot the wrong man. In taverns, men swore they'd seen Billy alive days later, riding hard into Mexico. Old women in New Mexico said he visited them at night, grinning, asking for bread before vanishing. The rumors refused to die. Decades later, the mystery deepened. In 1950, an old man in Texas named Brushy Bill Roberts declared that he was Billy the Kid. He claimed Garrett never killed him, that he had escaped under another name and lived in hiding for 70 years. Newspapers swarmed his doorstep. Reporters scribbled furiously as Brushy Bill showed scars, told stories, swore he was the boy outlaw. Some believed, others laughed. But the controversy reignited the legend because deep down, people wanted to believe Billy still rode somewhere beyond the horizon. Meanwhile, Billy's grave in Fort Sumner became a shrine. Travelers came from miles away to stand at the headstone, to touch the dirt that covered the boy outlaw. They left flowers, coins, prayers. Some wept, whispering, he was just a boy. Hollywood soon discovered Billy's power. Silent films of the early 1900s turned his story into melodrama. By the 1930 seconds, Westerns portrayed him as both devil and saint, sometimes a ruthless killer, sometimes a misunderstood rebel. In 1958, Paul Newman played him in The Left-Handed Gun, painting him as tragic and doomed. Later, in the 1970 seconds and 80 seconds, Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid and Young Guns reimagined him for new generations. Each retelling reshaped him, twisting truth into myth, until fact and fiction blurred completely. Through it all, Pat Garrett never escaped Billy's ghost. Though hailed as a hero by some, many cursed him as the traitor who killed a boy he once called friend. Garrett wrote a book to defend himself, hoping history would honor his side. Instead, the world remembered Billy. Garrett's name sank into the shadows of the very outlaw he hunted. He died in obscurity, haunted, forever chained to that single shot in the dark. And Billy, he never died. Not really. More than a century has passed, but the boy outlaw still lives in song, in film, in story. He is a symbol of rebellion, of youth cut short, of laughter in the face of death. His tale is the mirror of the Wild West itself. Brutal, chaotic, beautiful, and unforgettable. They said he killed one man for every year of his life. 21 years, 21 lives. But the truth is this: Billy the Kid lives forever, because legends are not buried in the ground. Legends ride on. Thank you for riding with us into the world of Billy the Kid. If you want more tales of betrayal, vengeance, and the Wild West's most feared outlaws, subscribe to Outlaws of the Wild West and join us in the playlist Legends of the Wild West, because here, legends never die.